your eyes just start watering out of nowhere?
My eyes get very watery.
I've known you all my life, and I've never known this about you. You're saying just on occasion.
On occasion, my eyes, it would look like I'm crying.
I've noticed that.
Classic Ruth Cody.
Yeah.
It looks like he's crying right now. Must have been a handful for Wild Bill Cody. Feel free, because we've already started the show, to put on your headset so that you can hear us. Yes, Chris, it's already started. Your dad, this is going to be wonderful to rummage through today because it is hockey night in South Florida. The playoffs have begun.
I love a good rummage.
We've got to rummage through an openly weeping Greg Cote right now because both Whittingham and Chris Cody, upon seeing him this morning, said, "You're wearing exactly the same clothes you were wearing last night," which is true.
There's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Thank you, Billy.
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
Did you change your underwear?
I did, yeah.
That's debatable.
Thank you. No, I did.
Why thank you? That's debatable on your underwear. Why did that get a thank you? When
at least I did that.
Okay. We think, allegedly.
Socks? Same socks, different socks?
Same socks.
Oh,
nice.
That's fine. Yeah, that's
excellent.
fine.
Totally fine. You can wear those 2 more days. Yep.
I do that all the time.
Yep.
When we go out to dinner.
Don't brag. Stop talking.
No.
Is that hair left over from last night, or is that a fresh product from this morning?
No, it's left over as well.
I like a day-old hair
great.
situation.
Yeah.
My hair looks better a day old. Like, if I ever have a big event, I haven't done this, but I'm going to implement it. If I ever have a big event, I'm going to do my hair the day before.
He's right about that.
And then sleep on it, and then it's going to look great for the next day.
That's smart.
I want to examine again. You're alleging that the goop in your hair right now is just from last night. You just slept in it, and it's the same goop you put in before going to the game last night.
Yeah, there's no goop. It's a little bit of hairspray, but I showered just before the game yesterday, and so I don't feel the need to shower twice within 24 hours unless I'm doing some heavy lifting or something, which I rarely do.
I'm happy to hear that you're still using hairspray.
Yeah, I'm one of the few who does.
Yeah, a lot of people have gone away from hairspray, and it's all about the gels now and creams and all of that business. Stay-in conditioner, whatever the hell that means.
My dad's doing his hair the same way he did in the early 70s.
Yeah.
I think he still blow dries.
He looks great, though, I got to tell you. He does.
Do you not still blow dry your hair after every shower?
Absolutely. When I check into a hotel, the first thing I look for is the blow dryer.
Right.
This is a stark contrast
After
of
the
hygienics.
Sometimes hard to find, though, right, Greg?
He's not.
Yes.
He's not.
Yes.
He is not.
The blow dryer.
He is not consistent with his hygiene. That goes without saying. I love the idea that he's just been using a little dab of Brill cream since the 1970s.
Little dab will do ya.
Damn right. Two will do you double
on his hair. But I just have to explore all of this because Billy, while goading Greg Cote, did recoil from his microphone upon the news of wearing socks multiple days in a row.
Well, now I'm finding inconsistencies in this story because do you use Brill cream or do you use hairspray? Because those are different things.
Yep.
No, I use hairspray.
Okay.
Yeah.
How far away do you hold the hairspray? Like, is it a...
It's aerosol can. It's all just spray. Yeah. It's old school spray.
Because you don't want it too close,
just ruining our environment.
That's
one
right.
spray at a time.
Yeah.
I cover my eyes.
Good.
And go about like this.
Nice.
And I just want the spray right here.
Wow.
To give me a little lift.
Right.
When I have short hair that's off my ears, I don't even spray the sides.
So about 8 inches away.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised by this structurally. Put it on the poll, please, Guillermo. When using hairspray, do you go from the side or directly in front of your forehead? Because he's covering his eyes, and I've never seen anybody do hairspray that way, where you're just spraying the aerosol into the back of your hand, which is covering your eyes.
Do you use a comb, a brush, or do you use your hand?
A little of, not a comb, a brush in my hand.
Yeah.
I'll generally go like this.
My dad's ability to be confident when he's saying ridiculous shit is remarkable.
What are you doing?
I mean, he's like, I only
Talking
spray
about
the
his hair,
front.
I mean.
I don't spray the side. He's just...
When it's short, he doesn't spray the side. You're not listening.
Right.
You know, people don't
Know your
give me-
dad, man.
I'm a trendsetter in the sense that a lot of people wear the same clothes multiple days in a row, but nobody has the balls to admit it like I do.
At LeBatard Show, are you gross if you wear the same clothes 2 days in a row? Also, for those of you who don't know, because this is, for many of you, largely not a video medium, when Greg Cote says that he makes do with his hair, he uses the back of his hand to rise up on the front, to sort of pompadour the front of his
Correct.
hair.
Yes.
But I want to, because you said there was no heavy lifting last night, but you sure came in here today as if there had been. Because
No one is working harder than Greg Cote in America. There is not a single columnist. He
Hello.
had a Heat game last night. He's got a Panther game tonight, a Heat game tomorrow night, a Panther game on
Every
Thursday
South
night.
Florida
No.
person working in
No.
sports.
No.
Grueling.
No one's working harder than your dad.
Mixing
Nobody.
the MLS and
Nobody.
baseball, I mean, it
Yeah.
never stops.
It's only just begun.
I know.
Right.
But you're saying nobody is working harder.
Well, I
In
mean,
2 weeks' time, Greg Cote will have been working very hard. But
yeah.
we're only in day one of having
Yeah.
worked hard.
And it's
no.
already grueling.
No, he's got to spend some time dreading what's upcoming. If
Correct.
he would not be Greg Cote. It's an emotional, physical energy drain
Yeah.
for him to think about the gauntlet that he's got to run
Oh, my
over
God.
the next 2 weeks.
And it is a gauntlet. I may not survive it.
You're traveling with the team, right?
No, I'm not.
Wow.
A lot of underwear columns then?
No, columns off TV. My good friend Dave Hyde and I have the same schedule over the next couple of weeks. He's not traveling either, which is
I love how
thrilling
you
for
dropped
both of us.
that
Is anyone traveling?
to
I
make
mean-
yourself feel better. You dropped that Dave Hyde's not traveling either.
Right.
So wait, Greg, if they get to like the Eastern Conference Finals, either team, do you travel with the team then?
Definitely to the finals,
Okay.
possibly to the ECF,
All right.
as we call it.
What you guys are asking of Greg is an impossibility. How is he supposed to travel with the Heat and the Panthers at the same time? It's
Right.
not. He's just a man. It's one
Yeah,
person.
that's correct.
He has to stay back and he has to cover both
Yeah.
teams.
Thank you, Billy.
Although Washington and Philly very close. I mean, you could pull it off.
No,
by
no.
train.
What,
Well,
what
the
are you going
solution-
to do? You're going to leave one of these teams with Jordan McPherson to cover? Like, no way,
It's like
Jose.
The solution really for Greg Cote is to not travel with either team so
Right.
that you don't neglect.
I don't want to play favorites.
That's right. So you just stay home.
right.
Would you mind if one of the teams lost? Like,
Hey,
I can think that. I'm not supposed to say it.
There's 2 Amtraks that go from Philly to Washington, D.C. The train ride is an hour and 58 minutes. It only costs you $18, Greg.
yeah.
Wow. I'm not big on train travel. You know,
Really?
I've lived with a myriad of Amtrak nightmare stories, derailments, things like that. Yeah.
Derailment.
Well,
What do
you
mean?
haven't lived with a lot of train crashes.
It happens. The odds aren't with you. I'll tell you that.
But
It's terrifying.
The
to go
odds
on a
are
train.
with you.
I think they're very
terrifying.
much in your favor.
The odds are in your favor of
It only
traveling
takes
by
one, though.
train and not dying. The
That's
odds are in your favor.
Yeah.
It is not such a risky endeavor that it's like basically you're playing against the casino.
Well.
Every time you get on a train, eventually you're going to die is not the way that this works.
I don't go on helicopters or
Yeah,
in trains.
Right.
It's just a long-standing policy.
I understand helicopters, but trains.
My wife has signed up for the Red Bull helicopter flips.
Oh,
that
boy.
She's crazy.
I
Man.
advise against
Yeah.
it.
all of us were cowards about around here, and the audience was pretty mortified by the fact that we have available to us skydiving and helicopter flips as safe as they could possibly be.
Right.
And all of us, to a man, declined scared because we have no spirit
Bunch
of
of
adventure.
tough guys in the audience, right? I'm certain everyone would do it, please.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
The
Well,
problem is, though, Dan, is that no one on the video crew wants to go on that helicopter. So how is it going to be covered?
well, there's a GoPro, and I guess my wife will have to do it herself, and she will have to take all the risk on behalf of the content for all of the cowardice that is present here on the show.
You shouldn't have to do that.
Dan,
man.
are you going up?
I am not. I'm grouping myself in the cowardice. I'm not just calling you guys cowards. I'm saying we are all cowards. But my wife wants to do it because she's got a spirit of adventure larger than mine.
I don't know that it's saying cowardice because we don't think, you know what, here's an airplane. Let me jump out of a perfectly good airplane. And maybe this piece of cloth will get me back to Earth safely.
I'm telling you, the only way I would do that is so that my wife wouldn't have to. I don't want to make you feel guilty or anything, Le Batard, but have a little chivalry. Step in.
Yeah.
Unless
this is something that's like a bucket list item for her. Is it something that she's always wanted to do? Flip around in a helicopter?
She just likes adventures, and this
All right.
one is as safe as it could possibly be given what it is that it is, which sounds pretty unsafe. But my guiding light here on the love of my life is that Red Bull does not want the headlines of having killed my wife.
Right. You update the will or anything? What
Sign a
happened?
waiver?
I mean, something?
I don't have to update the will if she dies.
Well, did she? I mean,
You know, there's a waiver involved. There's got to be, right?
There have to be
Multiple waivers.
so many
Oh, my
waivers
God.
involved. I will get to the game last night in a moment, but Chris Whittingham and Chris Cody did a pregame, postgame show, or a postgame show that was postgame to the Heat game, but is a pregame to what it is that we're doing here, even though it's dubbed the postgame.
what?
And they spent some time after and around the game last night, around a bad Heat Sixers game. Both of those teams were pretty dreadful last night.
That's a bad team, Philadelphia. That series is a wrap.
You said Maxey was a big three member a couple of weeks ago.
He's pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, but Embiid's not there.
True.
And DeAndre Jordan is starting, and he's terrible.
Yeah,
And Doc Rivers should be ashamed of himself for sticking with DeAndre Jordan because the team believes in him. Get out of here. That series is going to be over in 5 games, Dad. It's a boring series, too. What a bad game last night.
That's the problem with the Heat, right? Like, I feel like they're always, because of their defense, I know the Sixers are just not good, but the Heat are never going to be they're never going to be the Warriors.
Oh,
right?
but are they going to do to Harden what they just did to Trae Young? Is it just going to be turnovers and he's going to get 16 points and they're going to say, go ahead, beat us. Go ahead and see what you could do about beating us, any other player. Tobias Harris, you want to go ahead and be their leading scorer? We'll make you the Magic. You'll look a lot like the Magic if you're going to be the leading scorer for the Philadelphia 76ers.
In 2015, that team was really good. Tobias Harris, Paul Millsap, DeAndre Jordan. Man, this team in 2015.
Even Harden, I thought, got to the spaces that he likes to operate in. He just didn't finish. And when he left the court, the Philadelphia 76ers completely came undone. The three-man grouping of Tobias Harris, Maxey, and DeAndre Jordan were all like minus 25s and minus 27s in a game that was a 12-point game because their lead completely evaporated whenever, like, the second that Harden left the floor. So I think that Harden, in peak form, could probably deal with this, but the Harden that we've seen for most of this season, and certainly the Harden that we saw in the first round, can't do it against this team.
Jordan was minus 22 in 17 minutes.
Oh no, it's worse than that. I'll give you some of the numbers. No. That's not the worst of it. I'm going to give you the worst of it in a second because we've talked before about what an amazing friend DeAndre Jordan must be.
Yes.
Because the Clippers, I will remind you, barricaded a door. Blake Griffin barricaded a door in Dallas to keep DeAndre Jordan with the Clippers when the Dallas Mavericks were tempting him away. And DeAndre Jordan, you've heard me, you guys made fun of me for the years that I quoted Charles Barkley saying that you could put DeAndre Jordan in a warehouse in the morning and come back 24 hours later, and if you do not allow him to count dunks, if you only count jump shots that he's made 24 hours later, you'll come back to that warehouse and have 12 points. because he is what Jason Kidd, you saw what Jason Kidd said, right? Jason Kidd said this series that we're playing, this isn't Gobert and Whiteside. They have centers who could put the ball in the basket. He just said it like that. He said, this is not Gobert and Whiteside. This is DeAndre Ayton, and he's someone who could put the ball in the basket. But DeAndre Jordan, Stugotz, this was so... It's so Doc Rivers funny to see this scroll up on my timeline the way that it did, which is the Doc Rivers quote of, "We like DJ. We're going to keep starting him whether you like it or not." And the next thing I saw scroll up on my Twitter timeline was that when DeAndre Jordan is playing, they've been outscored by 71.5 points per 100 possessions. Wow. Like that Bam Adebayo torches DeAndre Jordan. No chance of defending him. That Bam Adebayo has that game last night because DeAndre Jordan, anytime he's on the court, it's just like, okay, we're going to go feast over there.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be able to do anything with him offensively, and he's not going to stop us at all defensively.
The defensive rating when DeAndre Jordan was on the floor last night was 159.4 per 100 possessions. That is unbelievable.
What does that mean?
It means that if we played a normal basketball game, the Sixers would give up 160 points with DeAndre Jordan on the floor.
Bam has to be like whistling through the corridors of the arena, right? Because he knows he's facing DeAndre Jordan. He has to be
You got him
skipping.
skipping into work.
He wants to play game 2 right now. He does.
Yeah. His breakout game offensively was the most predictable thing that happened last night. He'd only averaged 12.8 points in the first round, only scored 20 once. So he was due to begin with, but with no Embiid, and it's just, he feasted. You're right. And P.J. Tucker dominated Harden after covering him in every Houston practice when they were both there. Perfect guy to cover Harden.
Yeah, and Tucker as well was doing a really smart thing of getting into screens so that Harden would have to defend more possessions. He had Tucker that one offensive series where he had like 3 offensive rebounds in a row because Harden was the one tasked with boxing him out. But on the DeAndre Jordan thing, it was funny because at halftime, we're like, oh, that was kind of weird. The Heat got off to a great start, but they're down at the half. And Jeremy Taché, who we're hanging out with, goes, that was kind of weird. And you can't really explain that. And I go, I think I can. DeAndre Jordan played the first 4 minutes of the game and then sat for the rest of the first half. And that's how it played out.
But Doc Rivers saying we like DJ, going to keep starting him whether you like it or not. I wonder this, as Daryl Morey came on our show when he was in Houston and said he used to bring all his numbers down to Kevin McHale, who would just take them and throw them in the trash. And Kevin McHale then went from having James Harden and not being any good in the playoffs to being replaced by Mike D'Antoni, who almost won the championship and turned James Harden into guy who passes the ball all over the place and, team that shoots 53s built around James Harden. How does Daryl Morey feel about looking at these numbers and being like, really, Doc? Really? Like, it's obvious to everyone watching, because this is the same conversation I had with Scott Brooks about Kendrick Perkins. And he's like, I like our record when he's starting. And my response was, but imagine what it would be if he wasn't.
What's Doc supposed to do, though? Like, Embiid's out. Where does he go? It's not a terribly deep team.
No, but
like Morey's got to come down and say, "Hey, put this guy in. We have a better chance of winning. Here are the numbers."
But what do you do if your coach just throws it in the trash? What do you mean Morey's got to come down when he tells you?
I mean, Morey's the boss. I mean,
they don't have options without Embiid. They tried last night. I thought Paul Reed, even though he airballed a finger roll at the rim, I thought Paul Reed played a reasonable game, but he had 5 fouls in 14 minutes. He would have played 30 minutes if he could have, but he didn't because he kept fouling.
I love Dedmon in the locker room being like, second round of the playoffs. I'm here, boys. Wait till I get out there. No Embiid. Wait till I get out there. I'm ready for the second round of the playoffs. 3 fouls in 38 seconds.
It's impressive, honestly.
0 points.
Didn't even realize it had happened, Chris and I. We saw it on Twitter. We were at the game, watching the game, and we're like, Dwayne Dedmon picked up 3 fouls in 38 seconds. Must have missed that.
What were the highlights? I got a great, just a text that made me so happy last night because Chris Whittingham discovered George Niang, who has been a favorite of mine for, since he was at Iowa State, at least in part because he's how I imagined my body looked when I was in my 20s. And every time I see George Niang, Billy, I don't know if you felt this at all, but George Niang, I feel like should be in one of those mechanics white shirts at Tamiami, like coming off of like getting selected 4th in a game at Tamiami because he's kind of pear-shaped.
With his name embroidered onto his chest, like there's a thing above his right pec that tells you what his name is.
I have it being just the mechanic's gear, where it's got his shirt actually has a pocket on it, the pocket that he's playing in, and the material is the harder now blue fabric because he came straight from the garage in nearby Westchester where he works.
It was one of the most startling takeaways of watching warm-ups. My Heat takeaway was that, wow, Omer Yurtseven is completely different looking in person. Because he just kind of looks like a guy on television, but hubba in person.
Yeah, he's a good-looking guy.
Yeah, good-looking man.
No doubt. Yeah.
This guy looks great, George Niang.
Right. Dan, you looked like that in college?
What are you guys talking? Did he look different before? Because he looks great right now.
Tamiami Park is where that dude belongs.
No,
that
he
is
looks great.
probably the least impressive body I've ever seen in person.
Really?
I genuinely saw him
Of an
warming
athlete.
up.
Of an
and-
athlete.
Take a look around this room, buddy.
No, I mean of
Oliver
a professional
Miller?
basketball
I mean-
player.
Oh, look, that bad.
I genuinely thought that one of the equipment guys was warming up. Oh my god! I really did. I thought an equipment guy was taking baseline J's.
Yeah.
Because like the equipment didn't even look like pro equipment. It looked like knockoff Sixers equipment that you'd find at Marshall's.
He's 6'7".
I know. I'm telling you.
I hope he hears this and comes and beats the fuck out of you for saying this about him.
And by the way, the equipment
Well,
guy
that Dan
also
looks like him?
the equipment guy also could have gone 0 for 7 on threes, just like he did.
I want to befriend George Niang. He's been a hero of mine.
We're off to a rocky start, I would say.
Since he was at Iowa State. He's got his own podcast. I would love to
He
not.
does?
I do not
Wow.
want to beef with George Niang. Yes, Stugotz. The Draymond Greens of the world have realized, they've said to themselves, McAfee got how much? Yes. The athletes of the world have realized they are rushing to this space. George Niang is rushing to this space to do a podcast because everybody wants some of this money.
Wow.
Now I can say I have been very critical of George Niang because of how he looks. However, he's in his 6th season in the NBA. He was drafted out of Iowa State in 2016. If anything, I am marveling at how he has gotten this far, considering the lack of physical gifts that he has. He's turned this into a fairly incredible career, considering.
Billy, you seem to be real defensive for
What are we doing here?
and offended on behalf of George Niang. I will say again that I have loved George Niang since he played at Iowa State.
I'll confirm that, by the way.
His body type reminded me of my body type when I was in college. And you can say what you want about him having a professional regimen now that you think in the photographs make him look fit, but Chris Whittingham stood next to him yesterday, stood right by him. Chris Cody, was this also your assessment? Were you nearby?
Were you guys mentioning this yesterday when you're standing next to him, or is this just a today?
To me, he just looked like a guy. Like, it wasn't unimpressive. It wasn't overly impressive. I didn't even really notice him. Yeah, for me, it just kind of didn't really hit my radar.
What, Greg Cody, did you end up writing off of the game last night as you head into the first? This reminds me, I've told you this story before. Looking at Jeff Miller, the Palm Beach Post Marlins writer in 1993 at spring training, we were like 3 spring training games into the first full season of the Florida Marlins. 3rd spring training game. And I look up from my computer and I say to him, when does it end?
Yeah.
It was the 3rd spring training game of the franchise's history. Like, they hadn't played any games, and we had a 162-game season ahead. And this is what Greg Cote coming in rumpled. What's he going to look like on day 13 of this? Is this going to be the same outfit, the same socks?
It could be.
He should wear that outfit for the next 14 days. Dad, can you pull that off?
I could. Obviously, it would be laundered in between wearings.
Oh, well, that defeats the whole.
But no, people can go to MiamiHerald.com and read what I wrote, which I cheerleaded. I wrote the big picture about how this is arguably the greatest sports week in Miami history. It's a great time to be a sports fan down here for all the various reasons, and the Heat obliged with a win over a depleted team. They played so badly. You know, if Embiid's out there, they probably win that game. The Philly does. So
Duncan Robinson doesn't play at all.
oh my gosh, how about
That's
that?
crazy.
Insane.
They go 9 deep, 10 if you include Kyle Lowry, who didn't play. It's just not even close to playing. It doesn't even look like. It's wild.
I am surprised, though, that I did not think when this postseason started that they would be going Max Strus, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent. I did not think that all of these people would be playing. I did not think that they would have a $90 million guy on the bench who would open with one of the best shooting nights I've ever seen from anybody. 9 of 10 from 3, so many of them contested, or whether it was 8 for 9 or 9 for 10, whatever it was, and can't sniff the court last night.
Right. You thought the guys like Vincent and Strus, you thought they would go away in the postseason?
I did not think that they would be playing. I thought we were talking about this, I don't know, 3 weeks before they starting Strus, and I think they've only lost twice since they've done that.
17-2, I think.
I thought that the guys that the reason that I think and thought that the Celtics have been better than the Miami Heat, with the Celtics over the second half of the season being as good as anyone. Phoenix and the Celtics were the best. Their defensive, offensive ratings were very high. The reason that I thought Boston would be better than Miami in the playoffs is because of Miami's difficulties late, combined with I didn't think that the people that had propped up the number one seed in the East would be playing all that much. Never mind Yurtseven,
Right.
which they were relying on Yurtseven for a month of the season.
And he played very well, yes. I mean, last night he was playing because the game was out of hand.
No, I understand, but Caleb Martin was playing last night.
Yes, he was.
Gabe Vincent closed a playoff game. You've got
He started.
Strus and Gabe Vincent have taken Duncan Robinson's minutes.
Yes, yeah.
And they make a combined $3.3 million. The two of them. They're both on $1.6 million. Caleb Martin is on, I think, $527,000 this season.
Wow.
And Duncan Robinson's got 4 years left on his contract.
The guy that I love on the Heat, he was so great last night. It's what he does. I mean, it's 10 points, it's 7 rebounds, but that doesn't tell the whole story. PJ Tucker, I love that kind of player. Just toughness and attitude, and goes after every single loose ball. Every one of them. And he gets in your face defensively, man.
I got to imagine that the thing that's happening with all of these guys, Strus and Vincent, as it relates to Duncan Robinson getting his minutes stolen, because usually if you're paying someone, there's a bit of a bias that allows you to be overly reliant trying to defend your decision of spending what you thought was value on somebody. I have to think that this has everything to do with defense. Everything to do with defense. Because what I've noticed in changes in basketball in the last, 10 or 15 years, it seems like, I don't know if it's because we've learned more about basketball or it just seems like something that wasn't done as clinically before. You come down with the shot clock and it's a guys on the court and it's a surgical feeding of how everyone decides on the spot, we're going to go where Duncan Robinson is. That's the matchup we like here. Everything we're doing here is rotated around. We are going to attack Duncan Robinson here. We don't think he can do anything in the post. He's going to foul. And more in the sport, you see this all across everywhere where it's like Deandre Jordan comes on the court and it's like, okay, everything's going to revolve around Bam now. Everyone else is going to get out of the way because they just know how to feed on a weakness in the chain links. And I don't see Duncan Robinson being terrible at defense. That's not discernible to my eye, where I see anything other than, they're attacking him. They know
Right.
that that's a place to go, and it's not something that they do as readily with Strus and Vincent.
Well, I think they know that their strength is defense. And so they really can only carry one player that isn't tremendous at defense. And I think they've chosen that to be Tyler Hero. And he demonstrated, I think, last night why you make that decision, Hero, over Duncan Robinson. But everyone else can switch because let's say you put Duncan Robinson on the floor, you try and match him up with the worst guy. They then immediately put him through every screen and basically say, are you going to switch Duncan Robinson onto James Harden? Because that's not going to go well for you. And that's the thing that I think Eric Spoelstra is afraid of, is that the most effective pick-and-roll defense has been determined to be the switch, and Duncan Robinson, you don't want him out there for those sorts of moments, and Philly's going to hunt it. Every team is going to hunt it. I guess the question is, you sort of knew this a little over a year ago. Why did you give him a 5-year, $90 million deal?
It is strange that a franchise that is defense first, that's the mindset, that they would give that contract to a guy they knew was not a two-way player.
But a great shooter, Greg. He has value in today's NBA because he can go 7 of 8 from 3.
It's easy to say now. All of us would have given him that contract. All of us here would have lamented the loss of Duncan Robinson if he had not been signed there. We didn't know that they could factory manufacture those. We didn't know anything about Strus and Vincent. We don't. You're talking about Duncan Robinson getting a story like his does not exist in very many places in the NBA. You shot your way into the league. You're one of the best shooters we've seen. Here's $90 million. You're undrafted. You're one of the great undrafted players that by contract ever.
Right. But I think Whitty makes a great point where they didn't need his offense last night. They didn't need his shooting last night and they have 2 bad defenders and Hero's the other. Hero is great offensively. And so they didn't need Duncan last night. I think that's a good point by Whitty. Like, they're not going to play both those guys at the same time. They're just not.
But what are you talking about? They played. I'm sorry.
Playoff time, man.
But in game one they did. In game one against the Hawks, that's how he got 9 of 10 shots off.
Yeah, but that wasn't the playoffs. This is the playoffs.
Okay.
Yes,
Very
exactly. Right. I mean, first round, please.
Okay.
Hawks, please.
A tweeter writes in, are you guys really ignoring the fact that Giannis traveled on that play? Off the backboard is not a self-pass, but he traveled going off that non-pivot foot. This is sad. It's the reason the game of basketball is going downhill.
Is that Laz?
From IT.
If your complaints about traveling not being called, guy, like, just give up on the sport. Go watch something else. If you watch basketball and you go, you know what this thing needs? More traveling calls. Like, you don't like sports.
It's not bad enough to want more traveling calls. To want a traveling call when Giannis has gone off the backboard for a dunk.
To take away that play.
Take it away in the middle of it by just blowing your whistle because I got you on
many steps.
I got you on that pivot foot, mother bleeper.
Right.
Everybody's here to watch me do that circular motion with my hands.
I want more traveling calls just because of that. It's like they're dancing. They're doing the locomotion.
Little hop before you do it.
Yeah.
The peak athletic form demonstrated itself in Giannis Antetokounmpo bouncing the ball off the backboard to throw it down. And there's one person. This is the guy who calls in golf violations onto the hotline. Is calling traveling on Giannis in that moment. It's ridiculous.
That person, I don't believe anybody likes that person. No one in sports likes that person. And yet, that golf snitch hotline is always a ringing.
Yep. Sure is.
There's always a guy who wants basketball to be played the old-fashioned way. When back in my day, we called traveling.
Yep. Bob Ryan. That's his name.
Greg Cote, do you have a back in my day today?
That's a sad story, Dan.
He's gonna blame
has
last
been
night.
swallowed whole
Yeah.
by the Heat and Panthers playoffs.
Too busy.
Yeah,
which haven't really started yet. It's been one
it
game.
started, believe
Today
me.
is Panther.
You got to
Today-
prepare for it, though, if you're Greg Cote.
Yeah,
Practice
you
like
really
you
do.
play, yeah.
Yeah.
Stretch out. Yeah.
You were texting me for ideas yesterday.
But we'll see you in the summer, says back in my day.
We were yesterday at one of the tables in the media kind of lunch
Holding court.
dinner area. We were holding some court, and Greg Cote was lamenting to several people, I've done everything. I've done this. I've done that. We were like trying to just complain about things that were near us. We were like Steve Carell and Anchorman just going, I love lamp. And just like, hey, there's an Aquafina bottle next to you. Anything on water bottles? Like, we were spitballing ideas. Like,
He
no,
says
done
he's
that.
out of
Nope,
ideas.
Done that. No,
Greg Cote believes, and this is a sad place to arrive intellectually with your mortality and your curiosity. He's run out of ideas. That's it. He's reached the end of the road on fresh thought.
There's only so much you can complain about. And I've complained about everything.
Yeah. And it takes a big man to admit that, by the way.
Thank you.
I'd just like to give you credit for that, because a lot of people would say, you know what? Let me put out an episode and just call it a remix and just play an old episode. But not you.
Exactly.
Right.
You say, no, sorry, Bob.
Yeah.
If I don't have something new, I'm not going to give you some half-assed old shit repurposed.
Not going to mail it in.
Exactly. I personally think that the show should replay some of my greatest hits. Drawbridges, menus.
Drawbridges is great. Anytime I come up to a drawbridge, if I'm sitting in it, I just start playing that.
Mass.
Back in my day.
I get
A
annoyed.
raised middle finger.
Greg, I've always wondered, and now that we have the opportunity, I feel like it's a good time to. What's your best, like your favorite type of bridge? Because there's so many different bridges.
You've always wondered that?
I have. I've thought to myself sometimes, I wonder what Greg thinks of this bridge. And Dan, I
Right.
told Greg this morning, I haven't seen Greg in a month. Just
Yeah,
because of
that's
how
true.
scheduling was, vacations,
I've missed you,
jury
Billy.
duties,
Cruise,
etc.
yeah.
It's been a month since I've seen old Greg.
Yeah.
And I've just been wondering, bridges. We can all give them if you'd like.
Yeah. Well, my favorite bridge is the card game. But beyond that, I don't know the name of the bridge. It's that tall thing. Yeah, it's the span. It's not a drawbridge. I'll tell you that.
A
That's the worst
suspension bridge?
Suspension bridge.
Wow.
Yes. I love those things. They're so
Interesting.
majestic to ride over. I would ride a bridge back and forth. just so I could be riding on a bridge the entire day.
If I may, and Billy, you can get to your favorite bridge in a second. But are you going to deliver without any sense of irony? The fact that you have run out of original thought and a columnist is paid for original thoughts?
Well, I differentiate between back in my day ideas and column writing. I mean, the game gives me thoughts. Back in my day, I guarantee you, if you ask the audience right now, hey, email Greg with some back in my day ideas, 99.9% of them.
The game
would
gives
be things
you
I've already
original
done.
thoughts, but life does not give you original thoughts.
Life is overrated.
You've lived so much life right now
Right.
that life has ceased to provide you with anything that resembles curiosity. Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Is Stugotz right when he says life is overrated?
You know what it might be, Dan? I'm thinking, Greg, you're probably stuck in the same routine, right? So you're not experiencing new things. So you've made your observations of the things that you're used to experiencing. So we got to get you out there experiencing some new things. Let's say maybe a helicopter that goes upside down and does loop-to-loops. You know, jumping out of a plane, things like that. And then we can get your observations on those.
We will get Billy's thoughts, all of his thoughts on bridges in a second. But I thought life would be the one place that would be immune from your popping up and saying that is overrated. To me, it's like saying health is overrated.
You're right,
Like there are
yeah.
only a handful
what
of
happened
things.
there.
Oxygen overrated.
It's essential. I mean, it is.
I mean, put it on the poll at
Properly
LeBatard
rated.
Show. Are you surprised that Stugotz thinks life, health, and oxygen are overrated?